Britain, the Union Jack famous for its castles, its old empire, skyscrapers named after pickles, and its queen. Less known for its boringer but way more powerful other leader, the Prime Minister. Now unless you're British or a nerd who regularly Googles how international elections are going at every waking moment, you probably didn't even realize that Britain just got a new Prime Minister. Dig into it a little and you realize that the UK did this without even having an election. So what's going on? Well, there was an election, but it was less like a national day of voting and more like if the only people allowed to vote for class president was the chess club and by mail over the course of 2 weeks. Confused? Well, Britain's system in general is a story for another time, so for now let's just go back to a couple months ago. Back in May of 2019, the Prime Minister announced her resignation. For Britain, resignation usually happens after any big political failure or election loss for the Prime Minister, which is why it happens so much more frequently than in the US. But instead of thinking of this as the Prime Minister resigning, you first have to think of it as the leader of their party resigning. The Prime Minister and the party leader are two different positions that in this specific circumstance were held by the same person. So what happens next isn't a national election for Prime Minister, but a privately held internal election for party leader. Here's how it works. The members of parliament from the party in question nominate candidates from their own ranks. They make their cases and in a very orderly series of ballots they begin eliminating nominees one by one. In June 2019, the 313 party MPs nominated 10 candidates. In this first round, anyone who got less than 17 votes was automatically eliminated. The MPs then vote again, and in this round, whoever gets last placed is knocked out, and they vote again. Repeat this until there are just 2 left. These 2 MPs then toured across the country in a dozen cities hosting the cutest, dorkiest little political conventions called hustings. Here, candidates get interviewed, debate, answer questions, and do their best to convince their fellow party members to vote for them. Again, this election is for party leader, the very same leader who will automatically become Prime Minister. They do this exact process anytime they need a new party leader, and not just when number 10 is on the line. So when the time to vote between the 2 nominees comes up, only members of the party will be voting, and not, as maybe have been obvious before, the general population. And how many people is that? Only about 160,000, a number that has been steadily decreasing from 3 million since the 1950s. In order to vote, you need to have paid a £25 annual fee at least 3 months before the date of the election, which is long before the Prime Minister resigned. Party membership in the UK is more of a commitment than it is in the US. The kind of people to be members are those who have the time and money to go to hustings, donate to candidates, watch all the debates on the telly, and also fantasize about having this kind of significant political power over an entire nation. In short, the elderly and nerds. Said nerds won't be going to the polls on a predetermined single election day or casting their votes at the hustings, but instead get sent paper ballots by mail, which they then have to vote on and mail back, which has issues. And this process is only that of one specific party's, the Conservatives. Labour, Lib Dem, and all the others have their own processes, but why go through all these hoops? Why have all these stuffy closed-door meetings and not just vote for the Prime Minister directly? Well, it's because the Prime Minister is less like an individual executive with a concrete authority and more like the poster boy for their party and that party's ideology. It's not worse per se, it's just different, and probably has more to do with Britain's system as a whole, which we'll be covering later. So unless that system goes through a major change, we'll probably be seeing more of nerds voting by mail. So while doing research on this, I found out that the Prime Minister's office has a title for its cat. The Chief Mouser named Larry. What a good boy.